3, 2, 1.
These are the times that try men's souls. The government is corrupt. The political system is dysfunctional. Both political parties have not only failed us, they have betrayed us. We cannot trust them with our futures. We, the people, must take back control ourselves. Welcome to the revolution, and welcome to Revolution Television and Revolution Radio. Thank you for joining us here at AEA4USA.com. My name is Lawrence Ebron. And now on to our revolutionary look at the news. Headline: Obama's chief of staff warns that we can't ignore Netanyahu's words. Well, the feud between the Obama administration and America's greatest ally in the Middle East continues. But unlike other famous feuds, most of the shots seem to be coming from the same side, which makes you wonder if feud is really the best way to describe this. Perhaps assassination attempt would be more appropriate. Well, just last week, White House Chief of Staff Dennis McDonough warned that the United States just can't ignore the remarks of the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu made shortly before the Israeli election. Netanyahu, whose campaign focused on security issues, predicted that a Palestinian state would not come about on his watch and seemed to undermine his commitment to the so-called two-state solution. Netanyahu, for his part, emphasized that his position has not changed. He cannot support the establishment of a Palestinian state unless certain issues critical to Israeli security have been addressed, which doesn't seem very likely for the foreseeable future. That was his position years ago. That was his position days ago. But Obama and his minions see this as an opportunity to push Israel a little closer to the precipice. At least it sure seems that way. Then, following closely on the heels of the Chief of Staff's remarks, and in an action that seems to resemble a fit of petulant foot stomping by a spoiled brat child, Obama himself announced that he is giving new consideration to backing the Palestinian efforts to seek UN recognition for an independent state, something which the United States has previously steadfastly opposed. Well, let's dig into this issue a little bit further. First of all, let's consider the so-called two-state solution, which is at the heart of the recent controversy. The goal of the two-state solution is to create an independent state of Palestine alongside the independent state of Israel by carving Palestine out of Israeli territory from the West Bank and possibly from the unconnected Gaza Strip. Essentially, Israel would be required to return to its borders prior to the 1967 Arab-Israeli War. The new state of Palestine would also be allowed to establish its capital in the eastern portion of Jerusalem. Now, in exchange for these land concessions, the state of belligerency between the Arabs and Israelis would be terminated. Okay, raise your hand if you're stupid enough to think that this can actually be pulled off. I don't see any hands going up. Congratulations, you're all smarter than the president and his chief advisors. First, Israel's borders are already nearly untenable. Surrendering the land envisioned to establish a Palestinian state would not only seriously jeopardize Israel's security, it would also surrender this strategic territory to Israel's avowed enemies, thereby giving them a launch pad for their next foray into the Israeli homeland. Such, of course, of action would not guarantee peace, it would guarantee war. Second, don't you think that we already have enough countries run by nut-job Islamic radicals? Well, if your answer was yes, consider this. A new Palestinian state will either be run by the nut-jobs of the PLO or the nut-jobs of Hamas. Case closed. Third, even if a treaty were signed by all the Islamic nations to honor the existence of Israel, in the immortal words of Hillary Clinton, what difference would it make? In case you didn't know, Sharia law says that it is okay to lie to break promises to, and to violate agreements with kafirs. That's us non-Muslim infidels. So, what difference do you think a treaty would make? The two-state solution is a boneheaded idea designed to give diplomats and negotiators job security. It won't work, it can't work, and only idiots or people with a hidden agenda support it. And now on to what has admittedly become a tiring and monotonous theme here at Revolution Television, namely the transparent hypocrisy of the Obama administration. Chief of Staff Dennis McDonough, by the way, Ian, did you notice that Dennis spells his name with just one N? I was wondering, is that a typo? I'll leave it to the viewer to decide if there's this mistake there, and if so, what it is. Anyway, Dennis said that the United States just can't ignore Netanyahu's remarks. Really? You don't seem to have any trouble ignoring all the death to America remarks coming from Islamic leaders, including the leaders of the nuclear-bound Iran with whom you are negotiating. Just a bit of advice, Mr. President. If you are going to ignore one or the other, you and we would be far better off ignoring the words of the Israeli Prime Minister. If you ignore him and things go wrong, what do we lose? Some cockamamie two-state solution that can't work anyway? But what could be lost if you ignore the words of the leaders of Iran and you help realize the nuclearization of jihad? Answer? The security of scores of nations, millions of lives here and abroad, and the future of America. And if that doesn't concern you, Mr. President, then I guess it's pretty clear whose side you're on. Barack Hussein Obama. Well, Ian, it seems to me that the only consistency in the Obama administration is its inconsistency. I've asked people to be PCSIs in past programs, political crime scene investigators. Now, if you follow the evidence in this case regarding the Obama administration's posture toward Israel, what conclusions should we draw? What do you think he's really up to?
Well, I think he's trying to give away the farm. I don't think he cares what is happening with Israel. I don't think he cares if Israel is a safe place for the Israelis to live or not. I think his true motivations are the liberation of Islam into our society. Everything, again, if we look at the political crime scene investigation, everything points towards that. Everything that's happening right now with the negotiation in Iran has everything to do with us giving away everything and allowing Iran to become a nuclear power. At the same time, while they're screaming death to America. So, really, what is the motivation here? There is nothing in what I see happening that would show that they care anything about the Israeli people, Israel as a country, or, I hate to say it, the American people. Why would you allow Iran, proven nutcases, to acquire nuclear weapons technology? Why would you allow that? Once they have it, you can't put that genie back in the bottle. So what's the motivation? And Kerry's over there, he's bending over and giving them everything that they want, while at the same time they're screaming death to America. I really got to question the motivations. It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever to me.
Well, you've talked about him being willing to give away the farm, or in this case, perhaps the kibbutz. But that seems to be the case here. Everywhere you look over there, from the very beginning, his administration has been hostile, to put it mildly, toward Israel and Israeli interests. And this is not just a matter of culture. It goes far beyond that. Even if he is a closet Muslim, even if he is anti-Semitic, and we certainly have seen shades of that. He would explain things in other ways, but we've seen shades of that. But even if that were the case, Mr. President, you're supposed to be protecting the interest of America. And that means you have to work not only for our interests here within our borders, but outside our borders as well. And anyone with any sense for geopolitics and geostrategy would know that the Eastern Mediterranean is a critical piece of territory regardless of who holds it, whether it's Israel, whether it's Jews, whether it's Christians, whether it's Muslims, whether it's Buddhists or whatever, or atheists. It's a critical piece of territory, period. There's certain places you can look at. You look on the globe and you just say, okay, that's important, that's important, that's important, regardless of who's there. Now, it is most definitely in our best strategic interests to have either a foothold in the Eastern Mediterranean, which would probably mean colonization, or to have strong friends and allies there. Now, the Islamic world has already automatically defined us as enemies by virtue, or perhaps I should say in their eyes, by lack of virtue, of the fact that we are kafirs, or infidels. Hey, that pretty much leaves Israel, whether you like it or not. And unless we want to colonize, and I don't think most Americans have a taste for that, we need friends and allies in that area, and it looks like Israel is it. So, Ian, if we mismanage our relationship with Israel, what options are left to us?
Well, that's the problem. The only option left is war. Because these people don't want to be our friends. They have no interest in being our buddy. They have no interest in coexistence. And quite frankly, I don't have any interest in coexisting with them. And if you look again, let's look at what this administration's done. Every one of our major allies, they have turned around and thumbed their nose at. Look at the British. The British are, one of our longest allies, them and the French. Well, they pretty much, thumbed their nose at the Brits. Same thing with the French. Same thing with the Germans. We seem to be all buddy-buddy with the one country in that region that has the most potential to do us harm, and that is Iran. We've totally thumbed our nose at the Israelis. And I hate to say it, but there's more leadership in Netanyahu's little pinky finger than Obama will ever possess in his life. I hate to use the phrase, but Obama wouldn't make a pimple on a good leader's ass. So I'm sure that's probably going to upset a few people in the administration, but it's the truth. He has no clue of what leadership is. You can take any basic E4 corporal coming off the battlefield out of Afghanistan, and he has more knowledge of leadership than this president will ever know. And he surrounds himself with buffoons, people that have no clue of what's going on in the world. So we've made it practically an enemy out of our only ally in the whole region. And I got to ask, what is the motivation for doing that? It makes no sense whatsoever. So we've been basically left with one option, and that's war, because Iran will attack the other countries in that region, and Iran will most likely try to attack us at some point, and the only option we're going to have is war. And unfortunately, if they are already a nuclear power, well, guess what, folks? It gets a whole lot more complicated and a whole lot more messy.
Well, as a Army Ranger, I can see your perspective there. Actually, there is another option. I wouldn't normally think of this myself, being a Marine also. We don't think in these terms like Rangers don't. War or submission. So those are your choices, America. If we don't square away this situation over in the Eastern Mediterranean, we're either going to have to go fight there, or we're going to have to submit to what somebody else decides will be our future. And right now, this administration is working to give that decision maker, the most likely prospect of that decision maker, which is Iran, a nuclear capability in the very near future. Again, you talk about sense. This doesn't make any sense. This administration's policy does not make any sense unless their goal is to cripple America. So, Mr. President, is that your goal? As I asked before, whose side are you on? Barack Hussein Obama. Well, that's our revolutionary look at the news, and we have our quote of the day to go along with it. Domestic policy can only defeat us. Foreign policy can kill us. John F. Kennedy. Well, this is brought to you by the American Eagle Alliance on our website, aea4usa.com. That's AEA, the number 4usa.com. So tell your friends to listen in. We will have different episodes. We've changed the format of Revolution Radio and Revolution Television. We're going with pretty much single topic reports now to make it a little bit shorter and easier for you to listen to and easier to find a topic of interest to you. So go to aea4usa.com. Again, the American Eagle Alliance is the headquarters for the Second American Revolution, and it is our firm conviction that nothing less is going to work. You want more of the same? Vote for Hillary, vote for Cruz, vote for Rubio, vote for Huckabee, vote for Carson, vote for Perry. You know, they'll give you more of the same. They'll keep heading toward the cliff, admittedly at different speeds, but nobody is talking about changing course. Nobody is talking about turning around and actually moving away from the cliff. Don't you think we should do that? Well, if nobody else is offering that, then don't you think you should look somewhere else? And that's exactly what the American Eagle Alliance is all about. You want to find out more about us? Go to aea4usa.com, read Solutions Guidebook for Rebuilding America the Great, or AR2, the Handbook for the Second American Revolution. Both are available through Amazon.com. Listen to our theme song, American, available on iTunes. You can look all of them up under my last name, Hebron, Hebron. If you'd like us to come and talk to you about our plans, talk to you about a Patriot Training Day, then give us a call at 909-913-7878. Again, 909-913-7878. So if you're tired of more of the same, if you're convinced that we need to do something different, something radically different, if it's time for the Second American Revolution, if it's time to rock the world once again, give us a call, join us, we'll tell you how. Well, again, thank you for listening to us again. Tell your friends they can listen to archived episodes of Revolution Radio and Revolution Television on AEA, the number 4USA.com. Now, let's get cracking, Patriots. We've got a country to save.